Welcome back. The President's Office of Communication, NAU Communications, of which NAU TV is a part, plays a big role here on campus. Recently, I sat down with Kimberly Ott to talk about that role. Kim, thanks for joining us on Inside NAU. The Office of Communication within the Office of the President of Northern Arizona University has an important but probably not very well known about role, and that's helping to get the story out, the information out. The Office of Communication covers a wide spectrum of communication to its audience.
Absolutely. I think it's one of the more critical roles here at the university, and you kind of covered it. It covers everything from emergency communication to the President's communication, social media, our news, media relations, and so it's broad and it covers many things from, like you said, telling the NAU story. So yeah, it has a lot of folks involved. It's not just me by any stretch, and it does a fantastic job.
Who are our constituents?
Everybody. And so this is both the opportunity and the challenge of all the people that work in communications for Northern Arizona University. In order to communicate and tell that story, it has to be broad. So we can't just be tied to, we're focusing our information in one direction. It's global, it's national, it's a regional, statewide story, Flagstaff-based, and we have a huge internal audience. And all of those messages and people are very diverse. So you're constantly looking at how do we tell this story to a global audience? How do we get that reach out there? And then how do we reach students and tell their story? So on top of that, besides just getting out and how important that is to get that message out, is the challenge of finding the stories. You'd think, as big as NAU is and how many faculty, staff, students that we have here, that would be an easy task, but it's actually not. You know, there's some people and some stories you'll hear more frequently, but there are those hidden gems. And again, students, faculty, staff that are doing amazing things that are having impact on lives and health and people. And that's the kind of story we want to get out. So finding those, being open to receiving those communications and that information is huge.
Kim, we go back to a time and a day and age as broadcast journalists. We didn't have as many platforms as there exists today to tell the story. Now there's all of these different ways to do things, including this right here, NAU TV, which is also in the Office of Communication that you oversee. How exciting is that for you to have that at your fingertips?
It's both exciting and challenging. And again, I'll go to the challenging part is back when you and I were both reporters and working in the information world, our audience was a little smaller and they relied on those sources and we knew we could reach them. Our reach was fantastic. Today, there are so many, as you just described, so many different ways to communicate, and you can no longer, hey, I'm gonna kick out a press release and hope somebody picks it up. You have to use every tool in your toolbox, in your communications toolbox, and that ranges from television, from streaming, to online, to social media, to news, to the written word for the President's preparation for her work. It's broad, and you also have to sell it. You can't just put it out there and say, again, someone's going to pick this up. You're constantly working with other media sources. Hey, did you see this story? You're pitching stories locally and nationally and globally. So there's a lot more complexity and opportunities in communication at NAU that has a fascinating story to tell.
Kim, a big part of also what you do and what the Office of Communication does, it helps Dr. Chang get her message out. And her message is going not just to the constituents here on campus, but to policymakers at the state level, from the Board of Regents to the legislature to the governor's office, but also to fellow educators, fellow higher education educators around the country.
That's right.
So that's also a big part of what you do.
That's a huge part. Matter of fact, at times it seems one of the bigger parts of what the folks in my office do, and it's constant writing, anticipating, looking for, op-eds that she can position herself or the university in. talking to policy members, talking to the Board of Regents. This past year, she actually traveled to New York City to talk to national media. There were 35 members of national media that were present that were asking about higher education and how is it going, and looking at different universities. And she was right there with her peer group. And so being able to position her and allow her to be able to go out and speak about NAU and higher education is a critical role.
You're an alumni of Northern Arizona University.
Proud one, yeah.
To be able to come back to your alma mater and be responsible for coordinating communication from your alma mater to the world.
I still sometimes think it's a dream. I always pictured I'd retire at my previous position with the City of Flagstaff. So when this opportunity came up, being alumni, understanding NAU and being proud of it, knowing what it means to graduates like myself, it's been a dream come true. And to be able to, and I think that's why I love what I do so much, because I realize I'm helping my university. I'm helping tell that story and share a story that I enjoyed when I was a student here, and look what the life and career it brought to me. And now I can do that same thing for other students, for faculty, staff, for alumni throughout the world. This is a phenomenal opportunity. And I have to emphasize, because you're on the team as well, it's not about me. It's about every member of the team, from TV services, social, news, KNAU, you name it. Everybody plays a role. I have a phenomenal team, and that's the only way it works.
Well, it is an incredibly difficult and complex job, but I can see that it's also a rewarding job. And it's rewarding for me working in your office as well as part of the Office of Communication. Kimberly Ott, it is great to share you with all of the people watching on Inside NAU. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.